Morning, everybody. So we'll pick up right where we left off last time. Had a couple different topics that I was yakking about, and that was one, the different job and the different politics or aspects involved when you work with another agency, especially when you're under their roof and they provide a lot of the funding. So that can really affect how you do things, because in a sense you're kind of serving two masters, or following two chains of command, and you have to do things both, well, for me, both the WPS way and the RCMP way, being respectful of the rank structure and the supervisors that they have. And like I said, I was fortunate to have a couple that were very good, and didn't have any issues with them whatsoever. And but we left off with talking about field training, and really the person that I was assigned to fix wasn't a recruit anymore, but they were still on probation. And sometimes when the service identifies issues, they go through a somewhat regimented process of performance development. It's sort of like an extended field training, if you will. A lot of the responsibilities are the same, except that now this person is graduated from the academy, and either can be still on probation within that 2-year period, and or just over it, but just that problems have been identified that need addressing. And this person certainly had their share, and so there had been other more senior officers who had been assigned to help fix this person, and then I was the next. And so it's very complicated, because you've got a task that you can do, you must do, but full well too that no matter what you say in your report, no matter what circumstances you document accurately, the decision's not yours. It goes up along the chain of command, and of course your supervisors have a look at it, and then they can make a recommendation to the divisional brass, who then has HR involved, and it's just way too fucking bureaucratic and red tapey, and not a lot of people want to make that difficult decision, or even acknowledge that the person's broken and there's no fixing them, because then it becomes a matter of, well, what do I do with this person and how? And dismissal is a very tricky thing. There's a lot that the service and the city will have to worry about, internally, legally. So it's not easy, but the bottom line is that there are some people who just aren't meant to do this, and should have never become involved in the process of application, and should have never been pushed through or granted the employment opportunity as a constable with the service. And that's for HR, for the service, for the executive, that's a real fucking finicky, difficult topic, and quite often the decisions from the bottom up, the two ends just don't agree. But give it your best shot, because you must. Everything must be done. So, and what complicated the matter a little bit more for me was that I was working for a friend, a hunting buddy, someone that I got along with great, and who was my shift sergeant, and just a real great fucking practical joker, a real mischievous dude. I liked him as a boss, as an S1, but personal relationships can sometimes be a wedge when it comes to the chain of command, and you have to sort your way through it with great care, because obviously the personal relationship matters most, but while you're at work, you abide by the working relationship, and it's not just between the two of you. You know, the rest of the shift sees it, and so you have to keep that in mind when you're doing your job. And the chain of command shouldn't be broken um, for personal reasons. So I got this person, and just not a mean person, very nice guy, um, but I did not fucking like what I saw from the beginning. There were huge problems. Not just I didn't like how they policed or what kind of cop they were, or just that they weren't proactive like I was, but somebody who had no drive, no interest in the job, and just, you know, the very basic street aspect of it, and someone who went along with applying for it because a person that they knew who was a senior officer within the service thought that they would be a good cop and suggested them to do it, but the guys just wasn't fucking motivated. And well, I'm not going to get insulting because they never morally or legally did anything wrong to me, but they're just like, the guy wasn't meant to be a cop. And so I'll start off with what I think was the most important aspects that I had to address. Well, number one is officer safety, and a huge part of that is observational skills. So, sorry about that. Just had to pause for a second. So the scenario was that we had stopped a car on Pembina Highway after I ran the plate, and I was in the jumper's seat. And again, I had to, you know, my job is, as the jumper, is to pay attention as to what's on the computer, to relay to my partner any pertinent information, things about the vehicle, things about the registered owner, things about anybody associated to the vehicle. I have my eyes down at the computer, and I'm telling him what I'm seeing and noticing. His job simply is to keep an eye on the car, the occupants, what they're doing, and to let me know if anything's going on. He is not to have his eyes buried in the computer. Officer safety. Make the observations on the vehicle. Things that are important, things that could formulate grounds to an arrest, or things that could be a public or an officer safety threat. So as I'm reading out the information on the vehicle itself, what is he doing? Head looking down, buried in the computer, zero eyes on the vehicle that we have stopped. And although in that occasion, that instance rather, nothing happened, but that's not the that's not the fucking point. Had someone gotten out of that vehicle and presented a threat, a weapon of some sort, coming towards the gun, or the vehicle itself as a weapon, backing into us, or taking off, he was completely clueless and neglectful of his responsibilities that I had explained ahead of time, in detail. Eyes locked down, not paying attention. And so in that stop, it didn't turn out to be anything, not even a ticket issued. People are like, oh, we move on, away she goes. You don't always get something. And so then we pulled over afterwards, because it's not just enough to go through an event or an incident and critique a person. You've also got to give them a chance to explain how they thought that went and whether or not there were any issues. And so we pulled over to talk about it after, and all I said was, how do you feel that went? And the reply was, well, fine, nothing happened. Give him a second. So did you notice anything wrong about what we did at all, you or I, in any way, shape, or form? No, nothing happened, was the reply. And I said, well, how about the fact that you had your head buried in the computer when I told you not to, and your eyes were not on the vehicle at all? Oh yeah, I forgot. That's a fucking failure. That's a basic, simple thing that is taught and ingrained from the beginning, to be aware of your circumstance, to be aware of your surroundings, to pay fucking attention. And anybody who's new who gets into the process or habit of stopping cars, if you've got a partner, talk about it ahead of time. Talk about what you're gonna do. Each one of you stick to what your responsibilities are. Communicate clearly. Can't stress that enough. When we're stopping cars, is just like going into an unknown house at a violent call of some sort. You know, that's when we get hurt. Then, or at a traffic stop. You have the traffic to worry about. You have the vehicle you have stopped. You have the people, known or unknown, that are in it. Those are your concerns, and that's why you don't want to be paranoid or hypersensitive in any way. But pay fucking attention. Look at what you have going on. Officer safety first, and communicate effectively with your partner and with the people in the vehicle. And don't rush it. No matter what, don't rush it. And if you need to abandon your stop because one of us is screaming bloody murder on the radio and needs help, then fucking drop what you're doing and get going. So yeah, there's a failure. You know, you debrief afterwards over a very basic, simple thing, and there's just zero knowledge or recognition on that person's part that something had gone wrong. At another time when we were spot checking someone on the sidewalk, and my partner was in the passenger seat of the vehicle. You know, we spot checked a guy that we were looking for, someone that looked like him, and it wound up not being that guy. But you know, you stop the person, you inform them what you're doing and why. You're polite and cooperative, as long as the situation is safe. And this was a situation where there wasn't anything outward that we immediately observed. But of course, as something as simple as a spot check evolves, dangerous situations can arise, or things can go fucking bad in the instant if the person realizes they're gonna get arrested or what have you. So we pull up beside the person, and my partner asks the person for their ID, asks them to sit down on the ground, on the sidewalk, and you know, things that we do to make things safer for everybody involved. Takes the ID from the person, and so, you know, I know that my partner has to do computer checks, and so I know that I have to have my head turned and be paying attention, a second set of eyes on the situation, just to monitor that person and to monitor the area immediately around the open cruiser car door, which my partner at the time left open. Which, you know, depending on the situation, that can be good to leave it open, or a real no-no to leave it open. No. And I'll explain why in particular this stop was an absolute no-no. So it's difficult for me to show it on video, but so my partner's in the right seat, computer's kind of down and to the left, and he's turned. And his service pistol's on his right hip, and the door is open. And the bad guy, or the person we're spot checking, is sitting right there on the curb next to my partner's head, which is turned to the left, unable to see, service pistol in the open. I'm cognizant of all this because I have to be. That's my job and my experience. I wanted my partner to see what if he could recognize what the errors were in that situation, to think about officer safety things, such as directing the person where to sit, making sure that you can see them, making sure that they're not too close to your person so they can't access any of our weapons or hurt us. And so I was ready and had a plan to use whatever force I deemed necessary based on whatever threat may occur, and having an eye on the guy. And I knew what I would do, what I would, if I had to, should the spot check turn bad. And so my partner just kept his head turned away from the person the entire time, didn't give him any directions, didn't explain to them what was going on, and didn't communicate to me anything that they had read on the computer, which I had told them to do umpteen times. And anyways, it wound up that there was nothing. This person didn't. Often on spot checks, you're looking for someone that is similar to a criminal that you're actively seeking, or if they have a warrant, or if they're breaching any parole conditions or anything like that. And it's part of proactive work. You're not just responding to a call. You see somebody who responds to our presence in a visually in a manner that's not common, that other members of the public do, something that causes you to suspect that they're nervous for a reason, which makes you want to stop them, talk to them, and investigate the matter further to see if there's anything. That's a lot of good arrests, proactive arrests, are made that way, and people that show that they're going a little bit above and beyond than just basically responding to calls. So give the person their ID back, drive around the corner, and debrief again, asking, so how do you think that went? Oh, fine. He was fine. And like you said, there was nothing. And I said, so did you notice anything that might have been wrong or dangerous at all? No, I don't think so. Okay. What about all the stuff that was on the computer when you ran his ID? Do you remember if he told me any of it? Oh, yeah. No, sorry about that. That's fine. Make sure you do next time. We'll work on that. And I said, so just one last thing. Any officer safety observations at all that you realize? No, I don't think so. So I went over it. I went over that he didn't put the person in a position of disadvantage. I went over that he didn't direct the person to the seat further away from the vehicle, not so close to the open door, in an area where we could still see their whole body. He didn't explain to the person properly what was going on, not thoroughly enough. And most importantly, head completely turned, service pistol side, actually made more accessible by his posture and stance, and never once looking over. So that's just, again, nothing happened, but the recipe for catastrophe was there. And those were two of the biggest. But there was, which I documented because I was told to, but there was another event where there was an armed and barricaded at a house, and so you take up positions in safe areas to keep an eye on the house as best you can. Several cruiser cars are there, and call history was just information that somebody in the house might be armed, and you can't take chances. And often, as you're forming a perimeter around a target house, you know, you gotta move around, switch positions, and communicate clearly to each other as to where you are, and ensure that you got all your bases covered, essentially. One thing that you should never, ever, ever do is move in front of a house that you're keeping an eye on when you're moving to another position to take cover. And that is precisely what this person did. Endangering himself. And then if something were to have happened, then we've got to go and retrieve that person should they have gotten injured. And even after all of the previous people who had tried coaching this person, even after I had tried coaching, fixing this person, even after the events that I had documented previously that we had thoroughly gone over, this person still completely clueless, took a very unnecessary risk. Thank God, nothing happened. But that was sort of the thing, I guess the final nail in the coffin, as it were, where, again, I debriefed him over the incident after, completely clueless as to having done wrong. Once again stated how, yeah, well, but nothing happened. Which again, guys and gals, that ain't the fucking point. Don't take the risk. Don't take the chance. When you're having to move tactically or tactfully in a situation like an armed and barricaded, you do it safely, quickly. Don't saunter in front of a place in full view of a threat. Just don't do it. And so I went over that afterwards, and again, yeah, the guy was just completely clueless. And it's just disheartening because, you know, nothing's sinking in. And I'm trying, and other people have tried. So document that, take it to my boss, and, you know, my honest opinion was that this person can't be fixed and should consider another position within the service. And those conversations are difficult. They're even more difficult when you have them inside the cruiser car. But I had to do that. I felt that I had to do that. I thought it was the right thing to do. I believed it. And so a short while after that, I had that conversation with that person. I said, and it was hard, but I was doing it for the right reasons. I said, you have to really think about if this job is what you want to do. And they're like, oh, well, it is. And I said, well, then you have to make certain changes that we've talked about, or you should, for your well-being, think about doing something else. And bottom line, that just never went anywhere. It never sunk in. And that person was someone who never changed as they should. My documentation, you know, went to my boss, and where it went from there, I don't know. My recommendation that the person, you know, be assigned to something else, and, you know, well, it just never happened. And so that can be one of the frustrating things about field training or extended performance review, or whatever the fuck they call it now. But bottom line is you have to give it your all and know that you've tried. So yeah, and so thankfully I didn't have to work with that person for too long. I moved on afterwards, and this was when I was still working when there was a District 6 at the station on Pembina. And luckily enough, because a lot of the proactive work while I was still doing, while I was in General Patrol, I managed to earn a spot on the community support unit out there, which is basically, and I think I've talked about this in other episodes before, a division central proactive unit that works on community-based problems, be they from an area that's having trouble with break-ins, to a house that's fencing stolen property, to suspected drug dealing that neighbors are reporting. So a lot of proactive work and whatnot. And it was during that time that I also had the opportunity, while I was in District 6, I was also a K9 unit quarry, and I had the opportunity, the good fortune, to be awarded the responsibility of looking after raising one of the service dogs, a female dog named Maya, that by the time I got her, she was just a little over or close to 2 years of age, and two previous shift mates and friends of mine had looked after and done a lot of the obedience training. And Maya wasn't a dog that took to tracking, but the service, the canine unit supervisors, I believe at the time felt strongly that she would likely be used as one of the service's breeding females, because she still had really, really good prey drive, ball drive, and she also was a candidate to be the next drug detector dog. And that is the lead-in to the next chapter of my story. So we'll get into me earning a spot in the canine unit as a drug dog handler next time. Until then, take care of each other, look after yourselves. Remember that your days off are more important than anything else, time with your family. And remember that if you're the one seeking to get somewhere, work hard to fucking earn it. Love you guys. See you later.